Hello everyone. In this video tutorial, I will show you how you can create your own easy and dynamic digital habit tracker that looks just like this. On the left, I will use in the habits drop-downs. I will use different formatting for the dates. And of course, I will use checkboxes to check whether I have completed a habit of that specific day, yes or no. And I will also use some conditional formatting in order to make sure that the months that are shown are really from the same month. And also once, for example, when there are no habits filled in, that it's a colored indication that you cannot or should not check the checkbox. And then to finish off, to make it a little more visual, I will also work with a column bar to indicate the percentage of completion of my different habits. So let's start. This is a follow along video, so you can pause the video whenever you want and follow along and create your own easy digital habit tracker as the video continues. Okay, so let's start. I will add a new sheet. So the first thing that I will do in my new sheet is I will select all the different cells and I will change the font to Nonito. It's a font that I really like. I will change the font size to 11 and I will align content of every cell to the center. Okay, with this out of the way, let's start building our spreadsheet. Now, don't pay any attention to the actual formatting, let's say, of the spreadsheet, the coloring and working with the different colors and the font sizes. That's something that we will do at the end when all functionalities of the spreadsheet are actually created. So the first thing that I will do is I will have a header here where I will name my habits in this column C. Now, I prefer to work with a drop-down to add habits to my tracker. So I already created here in the habit list, and I will use these lists in order to have a drop-down here in the different habits that I will have in my spreadsheet. We will also try to number the different habits. So we'll add this also as a header, and I would say that we will have, let's say, up to 12 habits that I will track. And now in these fields, I want to have the drop down available. Okay, so with these fields selected, I go to data, data validation, and I will add a rule. Drop down from a range. I select the data range and I will go to the habit list that I have here and I will select all the different habits that I have a description of, or even I can go a little bit lower too if I want to add some more later on. I click OK. And as you can see, the different habits are already mentioned here. I could add a color code, but it's something that I will not do right now. One thing that I prefer to do in the advanced options is to change the display style to arrow. And I click done. I go back to my sheet and I will just rename my sheet to tutorial video, just like this, so that we know that this is a sheet where we will create the new tracker for the tutorial video. And as you can see, I have now here a drop-down list. Let's add a few of the habits: skincare, wake up early, yoga, and maybe a last one. Let's say study a daily or take a daily language lesson. Now I will align these to the left, which is a little bit nicer to look at. I will take these a little bit smaller. Now the next thing that I want to do is add a month selector. So month, and I will have here the possibility to make a selection, the starting dates, let's say, of my tracker. Now to do this, I want to use the calendar date picker and I will create it in this field. So with the field selected, I will go to data, date validation. I will add a rule and here I will select is a valid date. I prefer to, if the data is invalid, to reject the input. So I will select this and then I click done. With this cell selected, I double click and as you can see, I now have a date picker. I will add, for example, here the 1st January of 24. Now I want to display here the month, so I can reformat it. I go to Format, to Custom Date and Time. In the top field, I can change the way that I want the format to be, so I will delete everything. I will select month, and instead of just the number for the month, I want to have the month as a full name, and I will hit Apply. I also want to show the year. I will show the year for the date that I will select. So I will have the same date in this field. So I will equal D2, and I will hit enter. Now I don't want to show the month, so I'll go to reformat it, custom date and time, and this time I will select the year, and I can take the full numeric year, and I can hit apply. Now here below you can see some pre-configured formats that you could select, or the ones that you have used in the past are here for easy selection. Now I just will hit apply here, and I will have the date here. And just to make sure that indeed it takes the date that I have selected in the month, let's say I go to 2023, and the year will change. Okay, great. That's a great start. So we'll go back to 1st of January. Now let's add the different dates. Let's say that I want here to start on the 1st of January, and that's when I want to start tracking my habits. So I will do this month by month. So actually the 1st of January, I should track it somewhere here. I will just add a few columns. I want to track 31 days, which is the maximum of a month. So just see that I have enough columns. And I will start here with the date that I've selected here in the month selection, which is the 1st of January. So I will also type here is equal to this D2 cell. And instead of showing January, of course, I want to show the number of the day. I will go to custom date and format. I will delete it here. I will add the day as a number, and I will hit apply. Now the next day is actually the date after the date that I have in D5. So I will type in D5 plus 1. You note that dates are treated in Google Sheets as numbers, so they can be treated in functions like I just did. So I want to continue like this. I will just go to until 31 days, just like this. Now I want to make the columns a little bit smaller. I will do that, and I will have them resized to 30, something like that. You can see you need to adapt a little bit here, so I will drag the year to the right. And January, I will merge these fields so that it's a little bit wider, and I will do the same for the year, just like this. We can adapt that later. But now I have 1 to 31 possible days. If I would change now the first date of my tracker, let's say from the 20th, you can see the numbers change automatically. This means that I will start on the 20th of January until the 31st, and then I will start on the 1st of February and so on. Okay, so this is actually how I select the first day of the tracker. Now I want also to have my days show up here. So instead of showing now the number, I want to show actually the weekday. How do we do this? With the equal sign, equal to the date that I'm talking about. And instead of showing a 1, I will format this time to current date and format, and I will show it as day as an abbreviation, and I will hit apply. 1st of January is the Monday, so I can drop and drag this to the right. I will have the different names of the days on top of the number. Okay, I will just align them in a different way. Now we want to use a checkbox each time that we have done a habit. I will select these cells. I will just add a border, and maybe I can resize the row a little bit. Let's say to 30 also. I know that made this a little bit too much. Let's make it 25. That's much better. And I want to insert here checkboxes. I go to insert and I will select checkbox. And all the checkboxes are added in here. I will align them to the middle, and I will give them just a slight lighter gray for a color that's more pleasing to the eye. I can adapt that also later. Now, so a checkbox is an insert option that you have to input data into a specific cell. And a checkbox is either true, as you can see here, or is false. So an unchecked checkbox gives a false value. A checked checkbox gives a true value. Okay, so for the moment I will leave it just like this. Let's go to the 1st of February. Okay, I want to track the habits for the month of February from the 1st until the 20th 9, because there is no 30 and 31 in the month of February. This means that these columns should not be used. Okay, I want to make that a little bit more visible, and I will use some colors with conditional formatting to do this. In order to demonstrate in this video, I will select the different days that I have in those different cells, and I will go to conditional formatting. Conditional formatting, and on the right hand side the conditional formatting pops up. Now it's a default that for any conditional formatting rule, the format rule is always, if the cell is not empty, it will fill in with a green background. As you can see here, all my cells are filled with green. But that's actually not what I want to check. I do not want to check if it's not empty. I want to check if it belongs to the month of February. So I will use a custom formula. I will have to type an equal sign. And you see that the border here now is red because it indicates that you need to complete it with a formula. I will use the month formula in order to check whether these different dates are all dates of the same month that I have here in the cell D2. So I will check whether the month in the cell D2 is different from, and I will start here because D6 is the first one. So I will type in month D6. Okay. I always want to compare with D2. So I need to make this one an absolute cell reference, just like this. And I want to stay always on the row 6. So I need to make sure that my row is also an absolute value, and I will hit done. And as you can see right now, these different cells, and I will add also some borders, stay formatted in white, and the only cells that are formatted in green are the ones who comply with this rule. This cell has not the same month value as the month value of D2, and the same goes for the cell AH6. Now I don't want to format this in green. I actually want to gray it out a little bit. So for the text color, I will make it a lighter gray. And for the background, the fill color, I make it white. If I go back to 1st of January, 31 days, and as you can see, these are back to the normal color. If I go, for example, to March, March has also 31 days, so April 30 days, I will select here. And only the last day here will be grayed out. It will have the conditional formatting applied. Now I want to use the same here for my day indications. What I can easily do is I will go up here. So I will have a range here from D6 to AH6. I want to start in D5. And as you can see, the date abbreviation now is in a gray color. Okay, and I will also apply here some borders, just like this. Okay, so I will just make this back the 1st of January. So now I have applied some conditional formatting on the dates. So the next step is to apply some conditional formatting to my checkboxes. So I want to have a green check mark whenever there's a checkbox checked. So let's do this. I select all the cells. I go to Format, Conditional Formatting, Custom Formula. And we always start with the upper left cell because my range is D7 to AH18. So I will always type in the formula referring to D7. So whenever D7 is true, and it turns blue here, I want this to be a green check mark on a white background like this. I click done. And now you can see whenever I check a checkbox, it turns green. But you can also see it turns even green when there are no habits, and I want to avoid that. I want to have a color indication when there is no habit selected, and when I select the checkbox in that same row, it has to turn red. Let's do that with conditional formatting. I select all the checkboxes. I go to Format, Conditional Formatting. I add another rule. I go back to Custom Formula. And whenever the custom formula that I will apply is true, I want to have it like a red indication stating, oh, pay attention, there is an issue there. So again, I will write a formula like it will be applied to D7. And in this case, the checkbox has to be checked and the habit has to be empty. So I will use the AND formula. First of all, I will say D7 is true, comma, and the second condition is that C7 is empty. And then I want it to be a red check mark. Okay. Now if I check here, it still stays green. So what is the issue here? Well, if I go to the right, I see that I have two conditional format rules. Now the thing is, the order of the rules of conditional formatting is critical because the formatting stops at the first rule that is true. So in this case, you will just check when check mark is checked. You said, okay, that's true, so I'll stop with the rest. So I need to drag and drop my red custom formula on top, and as you can see, the color changes. But only for the first column. As you can see, the second column turns green. Okay, I go back to my formula and I say D7 is true and C7 needs to be empty. So when I jump one to the right, for example, here in this case to E13, he will check the formula and D13 has to be true. And then he will go to the next reference cell for E13, and that is then not C13, but D13. So I need to fix the column of my habit. So when I enter a $sign here, I click done. As you can see now, all the habits that I can select here, where there is no habit selected, will stay red and the others will turn green. Just like this. Okay, that's my first thing that is fixed. Now, the second problem that I have noticed is, well, there are months, for example, in February, where I don't have 31 days. So I already grayed out the headers, the date number, and the day abbreviation. So what I want to avoid is that I can put green checkboxes in a column where there is a date that does not belong to the same month that I selected here on top. Okay, so let's write a formula for that. It's also a conditional formatting formula. So I select all the cells again. I go to Format, Conditional Formatting. I add a rule. It has to indicate again that there is an issue, so it will make it a red formatting style. I will apply a custom formula. Okay, like I said. So here I have now two conditions. First of all, and I'm writing a formula for D7. The first condition is that there needs to be a checkbox in D7. And the second condition is that this date has to be from the same month as the month that I've selected here. Okay, and we do that with the month formula, as I will show you in a minute. So two conditions. So I will equal sign, use the AND function. So D7 has to be true. And my second condition is that the month value of D6, when it's different than the month value of D2, then it has to turn red. So I click done. And as you can see, well, it's still green. So there is a problem here. Let me drag this up. And some have changed. I open up the formula and let's check it again together. So for D7, let's say for AG7, it's checked. So that one is true. But now I have, of course, to refer all of the time to the month value of D2. So I will make these absolute values. And I also have to use, of course, row 6 to compare the dates with D2. So I can also fix the 6 here and I can hit enter. And now if I go back and look at my spreadsheet here, let's undo this all. Okay, so I click here, it gives me an indication that there is an issue. And when I click here, it's also red. Let's double check. I go to March and indeed it goes to green because I have 31 days in March. Let's go 1 month further. I go to April and it says, oh, pay attention, in April we don't have 31 days. This date is a date from the month of May. So if I go do them, undo them, then it's everything fine. Now there is one last conditional formatting that I want to use, and that is in these cells, the dates. I want to have a color indication if that specific date is today. I think that's always useful. So, and I want to have it in orange, maybe a little bit lighter orange. That's much better. And I want to do that when the date is today. And I click done. I will put it on top to make sure. I will close this and let's double check. I go to May because we're the 18th of May. And indeed, the 18th of May is colored orange. And that's it for the conditional formatting for this spreadsheet. Okay, we're almost there. It starts to looking good. So maybe I can add here also some borders. Let's do it like this. Alrighty. Now I want to add some percentages of completion of my different habits, but also some percentages of completions per day. But we'll start by habit. So let's make a header here, quantity. And I will add in a few rows here and the percentage. And the formula that I will use is the COUNTIF formula. And as you can see here in the pop-up suggestion, you have to select the range, and the range is from the first day of the month until the last day of the month. And the criteria is it has to be true. And it says 2 green check marks, as you can see here. Indeed. And now the percentage will be the quantity divided by the number of days in the month. Now this changed from month to month. And to do this, I will use a combination of 2 functions. First of all, the end of month function, and secondly, the day function. Let me show you what both functions do. First of all, the end of month function of a specific starting date, and I will select D2. And the second parameter here is the month indication. Whenever I indicate a 0, it will take exactly the month of the date that I've selected, but I can go up 1, for example. I can go up 2. You can see it changes here, the reference date, it will change, and give me the last day of the month 2 ahead, 3 ahead, and so on. And I can also go into -1, and I go back 1 month. But if I want the same month of the date that I have selected, I enter a 0 as a parameter. I close the parenthesis and I hit enter. And now this date is the last day of the month of January. It's the 31st. So I want to determine now the number, the day number of that date. And I can do this with the day function. And the day function of a specific date returns the number of that day in that month. And that's exactly the number that I need in order to calculate my percentage. So I will just undo this. I will delete them and I will type in a formula. And that the formula is equal sign, the quantity divided by the day, parenthesis, end of month, parenthesis, D2, second parameter 0, closing parenthesis, another closing parenthesis, and I hit enter. I just need to format this into a percentage. It calculates that my 2 divided by 31 days is 6.45. Now I can easily drag this down. I can do the same thing here. And now I have my quantities and my percentages for those habits. I will put some borders around it, just like this. Now I can do the same thing here for every day. Instead of summing up and calculating the quantities for each of the habits, I will do this now by day. First of all, I want to count the number of habits that I have in my spreadsheet. I will make a header here, number of habits, and I will use the count formula, but this time it's the count A formula, and it will determine the number of values in the data set. I will select it, and I will select the range of habits that I have in my spreadsheet, and I will close it with a parenthesis and hit enter. And it counts the number of habits. Now, for example, if I would add reading the Bible here, okay, it will count 6. So I have here my 2 fields that I'll give them a border. And now I'm going to calculate day by day the quantity and the percentage. Daily habits completed and the percentage. So first of all, I will do the same thing like I did here. I will sum up the number of check marks with the count if formula, the range, and the condition. It has to be true. I will close and hit enter. I can already drag this to the right. And let me just check a few. Yes, 3, 2, 2, and so on. Okay, looks fine. And now, in order to calculate the percentage, equal sign 1 divided by the number of habits. And I formatted this to have no decimal places, and I format this as a percentage, and I can drag this to the right. And as you can see, I get an error. The thing is that I need to pay attention whenever I draw this to the right, that we always divide by 5. So I go back here. Let's undo this. I go back in my formula, and I will make from C22 an absolute field, a $sign, and a $sign. I hit enter, and now if I drag this to the right, all the numbers are divided by 5, 3 divided by 5, 60%, and so on. Okay, this looks good. Let's just give this a little smaller font, something like this. Let's add a border around it, and we're good to go. Okay, so we have now the daily habits completed, the percentages, and the quantities for each habit. So now we want to add a last element to our spreadsheet, and these are the graphical representations of our completion of habits. And we do this with the function called SPARKLINE, which gives us a graphical representation of some kind of a column or a bar chart, let's say, of the numbers that I have here. I will start with the one here on the right. And the formula, and you have to type it in just like I do, is SPARKLINE. And you see it pops up here, and then I need to put in the data and some optional information. The percentage that I want to show here is 6.45, so I will refer to this 6.45 AK7, comma, and then I need to open the curly brackets, type in charttype, bar, then I hit point, comma, max, comma, 100%, which is a max reference, point, comma, between brackets, color, and I stress on the 1. Pay attention that you add the 1, comma, and then I can choose a color reference, and that can be any color that you can type in: green, red, and so on, or you can use the hexadecimal code of a color, which I will do immediately right now. 6. Close the brackets, I close the semicolon, and I close with a parenthesis, and I hit enter. If I continue to At check marks, you can see that actually my percentages go up. And in this field, there's a graphical representation of how much of the 100% I have completed. So if I would now have everything completed just like this, give 100% and this is full. So let's undo this. Let's copy this formula down. And this gives me now a nice graphical representation. Let's do the same down here. I type in SPARKLINE. And now my value is this percentage, comma, open the curly brackets, and I will just type in chart type, comma, column, point, comma, the y minimum, 0%, point, comma, y maximum, comma, 100%, point, comma, the color, comma, and again I will use a hexadecimal code immediately here in my formula, 7 CD C3C. I close the curly brackets, I close the parentheses, and I hit enter. And now in this case I will merge, and I will use the merge fields here for the vertical bar chart, and I will just also drag this to the right. And I will get a nice representation of my completions. Now let's just go back for a second here in this formula, and I will use the same hexadecimal code. So I'll just copy and paste it, copy. I will go back to this formula. I hit enter, and I will apply this to all of them. So now I have both colors over here, which is a good thing. Now there is one last thing that I can do, and that is whenever I reach, for example, 100% of my habits, I want to have this graphical representation completely green. So how do we do that? We'll adapt the formula with an if condition like this. If D25, which is the percentage, is 100%, and I will just copy this part, copy. I will paste it also here. Don't forget the point, comma here. But this time I want, if the formula, if D25 is 100%, I want this to be another color, a green color, and with the hexadecimal code that is the 7 CD C3C, just like this. And now I can drag it to the right. And as you can see now, whenever I hit 100%, it turns green. You can also apply this here. I won't do this right now. You can add some borders around it, refine a little bit the layout. This was the last step of creating all the functionalities of the digital habit tracker. Now it's just a question of improving a little bit the way that it looks. And that is exactly what I will do right now. I won't explain every step of it, and I will speed up the video a little bit. And of course, you can adapt the spreadsheet with the colors and the fonts and so on to your liking. Okay, and now with the formatting done a little bit, of course, if you want to start with another month, what you can simply do is you duplicate this step sheet, you have another one, and you can, for example, rename it to January 2024. So you can keep tracking your habits. And if you want the next one, you duplicate it, rename to February 2024, and you can select and drop, just change the month to February with another month selection. And like this, you can add multiple tabs for tracking the habits for every month that you want to track. Okay, with this being said, thank you for watching very much. You can download also this spreadsheet. I will put the link in the comments below. If you would like to see more like these follow along tutorials, let me know in the comments, give me a like and give me a subscribe so that you will not miss the next video. Thank you for watching and bye bye.